Top 5 favorite scenes from the Disney Star Wars era? Let's do it. Number 5. Luke connecting back to the Force on Octo 2. For some reason, this scene has stuck with me ever since my first viewing. Not only was it a nice homage to Luke and Leia's connection in The Empire Strikes Back, but for me, it evoked a sense of that old, classic Lucas Star Wars. Visually, it was beautiful. We see the wide shot of the island, then Luke approaching the meditation rock, and finally, we see his face close up in his reluctance to reconnect to the Force. Plus, there is a full moon, one big, bright light amongst all this darkness. One big metaphor for Leia. When Luke placed his hands on the rock and the water on the Jedi mosaic started moving, it was as if he was surging with pain. And if I'm remembering the novel correctly, Luke actually did feel a lot of pain while reconnecting to the Force after all this time. We see all the tremors in his face, and it's haunting to watch. And finally, we see Leia on the Radis, still in her med pod and not even conscious, but she speaks the word Luke. Instantly, I got chills on first viewing. The cut back to Luke wide-eyed saying Leia, finally aware of the situation, was perfect. The sound effect as he says Leia echoes out real beautifully, enhancing the mysterious vibe that I had earlier mentioned. If I had to compare this to another scene in Star Wars, it would be when Yoda mentions there is another. It's one shot, a few different light cues, and just a sense of awe. Number 4. Solo's intro escape. Say what you want about Solo: A Star Wars Story, but I think it's a pretty great film. It's the first truly original intro in the Star Wars catalog, and its editing in sync to the rise and fall of the musical cues really got me pumped for the rest of the movie. After the blue-green font scroll fades away, we see a spark in the darkness. It's Han hot-wiring an M68 land speeder, and what's great is how this brings us into the story. We, the audience, are Han. It's his point of view at first. We are on this adventure immediately, and we are ready to flee. There are very percussive edits to match the intensity of the score, showing off different angles of the speeder as it comes to life. And then finally, we get our reveal of our hero. Han pops up like a worried kid who knows he's in trouble. I definitely got a bit of chills as the intro played. Him looking back to see if he's in the clear, then the camera just lingering on him as he speeds away, was fantastic. The other thing about this is how real this all looked to me. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Lord and Miller created a rule that everything had to look like it could be filmed in real life, in front of a camera. Even though they were let go from the production, that rule followed over into the reshoots. Corellia is gross, it's lived in, it's wet, and it's full of clutter. The speeder looks like something that you could really take for a ride. As a guy who wasn't super interested in Solo until I saw Solo, the crafting of this intro with the editing and music sealed the deal for me. It was a great way to introduce us to a new Han, as well as give the audience that sense of urgency and adventure right off the bat. Number 3. Han and KYLO on Starkiller base. This scene is beautifully sad. Han Solo confronting his son after God knows how long was heartbreaking to see. His face regretful as he sees his son covered from head to toe in black, and finally he screams out his son's name. I couldn't believe it. That name hit me right in the gut. It made me think of Obi-Wan. It made me think of kindness, goodness, the light side, and here's this kid in a mask, part of a murderous military regime, and he's calling himself Kylo Ren. Kylo's entire dark side facade was broken by Han during this interaction, well, until the very end. But we saw a truly raw moment here. For a second, Kylo is Ben talking with his father, on the verge of tears. He admits he is in pain, and he admits this to his father. Han only wants his son to come home, to right his wrong, and to perhaps be the father that Ben really needed. So many emotions were going on in my own head during the scene, and what's wild is, I kinda think that Han knew he was going to be killed here. It seems like he knew it, at least that's what I think. Once all the light had drained from a nearby star that Starkiller Base was taking the energy from, it basically left Kylo basked in a red hue. We all knew what was going to happen. As he impaled Han with his lightsaber, Kylo could barely say thank you without whimpering. And then Han touches his son's face one last time. One gentle caress and perhaps a gesture to push his son back towards the light. I was absolutely pissed at Ben Solo, Kylo Ren, and on the one hand, I felt bad for Ben Solo for being trapped in the First Order and under Snoke's manipulation. But either way, this is one of the best acted scenes out of a Star Wars film I have ever seen. When Star Wars gets down to basics and lets two talented people give it their all, this is what we get. The most heartbreaking scene in Star Wars. And it's amazing. Number 2. Snoke's throne room battle. I know this is a fight scene and might be better utilized in a top 5 lightsaber duels, but to me, this was a lot more than just a duel. It demonstrated the purpose of Ben and Rey's relationship. Two aspects of the Force come together to defeat anything and everything. Yeah, that is exactly what this scene was about. The spectacle of the fight was incredible. It felt real. I thought the direction of movement between the guards and Kylo and Rey were really well done and thought out. Seeing the guards in their new weapons was a feat for the eyes, no doubt. The emotionless warriors had an elegance about their movement, and what was really interesting to me was how they sprang to life immediately after Snoke's death. I thought that their never-ending allegiance to Snoke was great. It was a little creepy too. The slow-motion introduction of Rey and Kylo starting to battle the guards was also very iconic to me. They both turned to meet their foes at the same exact moment, and they literally looked like yin and yang. It was a very good bit of visual storytelling. This scene was intense. This showed us a little bit of what is to come with Ben and Rey, I think, and visually, like I said, this was an unbelievable scene to watch. It might be the best shot duel in Star Wars, right next to Vader vs. Luke in Return of the Jedi. And at number 1, Vader in the hallway. Yes, I went there. This scene made me stand up in theaters as it unfolded. From the first frame of Vader to the last, this entire scene is a masterpiece. Is it fan service? Well, kinda, but it also gave so much weight to the stealing of the Death Star plans, as well as greatly enhancing the introduction to A New Hope. It gave it a new sense of intensity, in my opinion. But anyway, when Vader ignited his lightsaber and we saw the glossy eyes of the rebels realize that they are probably all dead, chills went down my spine. The whole scene was like a horror movie. The rebels were trapped in a long tunnel with a demon. Even the music had this Gregorian choir that was extremely loud as Vader slaughtered each rebel one by one. The displays of the Force Vader used were very well done and extremely dramatic. When Vader opened his hand elevating one of the rebels and then closed it, which threw the rebel onto the ceiling, I was legitimately nervous. No portrayal of Vader has been this intense before, at least on screen. I also loved how he kept his fist closed as he walked past the rebel on the ceiling, not even glancing back, and he just swings his lightsaber backwards, disemboweling the rebel still stuck in the ceiling. Adding in quick cuts of the rebels who have yet to die screaming, "Help us," added to the anxiety while watching this. We all know that those plans make it out, but we need to feel like they won't. We need to feel that all hope is lost, and mission accomplished with this scene. It was the scariest Star Wars scene I've ever watched, and the one that without a doubt has stuck with me the most as a fan. I highly doubt we will ever get a Vader feature, but if we do, and it's half as good as this scene, it will probably give me a heart attack by the end due to how great it will be. But anyways, those are my top 5 scenes out of the Disney era Star Wars. I'm curious as to what you guys think of this list, and if you can, leave yours down below in the comments. As always, may the Force be with you, and the AT-AT chat is signing off.